I think that that's the biggest problem that I see on retreats, not with kids like hearing what the Catholic Church teaches and not liking it. It's that they hear things that are wrong, and then they have this wrong view of the Catholic Church that needs to be changed, because people don't want to have those hard conversations and people don't want to teach those hard things.
Today we have Maria and Grace Foy, our two daughters. Both are missionaries with NET, one in Canada, one in Ireland. And we want to have a conversation with them about their lack of parenting while they were growing up. And also basically talk to them about their faith, have a conversation with them about their faith, have a conversation with them about their relationship with God, about maybe their favorite scripture, what it was like growing up in the Foy household, and and so on and so forth. Let's hope that this conversation goes where God wants it to go. I have to say, for me, and I know Sheena is as well, really proud of these two fabulous girls. We have three daughters. Anna's in Belfast, married in Belfast, and to Rory. And these three girls are amazing. That we have two of them here in front of you I'm so super proud of them, as I am of all of my children.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you have to come far?
Yeah. From that room.
Okay, so who wants to start first with a conversation? Sheena, have you any questions that you want to kick off?
No, I think you should introduce yourselves first. Grace, you should say a little bit about yourself.
My name is Grace. I am 20 years old. I am currently serving my third year with Net Ministries Canada. I am on the West Coast traveling team, which means that I travel all across the West Coast of Canada, and I'm just hoping for my Christmas break right now. Yeah.
Great. And you're heading back tomorrow?
Heading back tomorrow, and I'm excited to be back, but also sad to be leaving.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Maria, who are you? What's your second name?
Everyone, my name is Maria Foy. I am 18, and I grew up here, born and bred in Balbafay. And this year, I'm 18 now, and so I've just finished school, so I'm straight into doing NET up in Ireland, in Belfast this year. Mm-hmm. So we're staying in a parish called Ballyhackamore, which is like slightly off the city centre of Belfast, and it is a crazy but beautiful experience, and I love it. It's really hard, but it's really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next half of the year is going to be like.
That sounds like a programme that was on, was it RTE years ago, Ballykiss Angels or something? Ballykiss Angels was another one, but it was Ballyhackamore.
Ballyhackamore. They actually, all the locals call it Ballysnackamore because there's so many little places to eat. So
I wonder, is it an Irish, what's the Irish, like Ballyhackamore, so town of the big house or something?
Yeah. Something like that.
Sounds good.
So Maria, tell us about your parish. What's it like? I know it's in a Protestant area in Belfast, which was really affected by the Troubles.
Yeah, good question. So our parish is called St. Colmcille's. So it's surrounded by a Protestant majority. So it's really, I think the Catholic community in that area is really strong because it has to be, because they were really thank you. They had to bond fast because they had each other, and that was that. And because of that, it's thriving. Like, there's so much going on. Everyone's so close. Young and old, actually. Like, honestly, it was so beautiful coming in straight away, and like they just had so much for it. Like the first weekend we arrived as a team, there was I forget what it's called, when they have like a bunch of different things that were going on in the parish, basically, and it was like a couple, like it was like 300 people come and see, but it was like, what are we doing here? They have like so much going on, but it's just amazing to see. Yeah,
you have an amazing parish priest there, Father Conor McGrath, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is
youngest parish priest in Ireland of his time. Yeah. He's in his early 30s. An amazing man.
And I think like our whole team and myself personally, I feel mentored by him. He is so brilliant at he's just very good at like trying new things and not being scared of change, while also like respecting what's already there, and he's also the vocations director for Ireland, and he's doing
down in Connor, is it, or Ireland?
Good question.
I think it's
down
down in
in
Connor, Maria.
Yes, you're right. So yeah, he's doing fantastic
That's a
work with that.
diocese in Ireland, down in Connor. Yeah.
Yes.
So what kind of things are you personally involved in?
Good question. So anything that Father Connor really like has ideas for, and we ourselves come up with a few ideas, but mainly it's young adult outreach. So we help out with, there's obviously a lot of colleges nearby, so we go into their Catholic chaplaincies, and we also helped host Alpha nights in the local pub, which was very nice, I must say. And we also, what other things do? We go into the schools as well, secondary and primary, and do different workshops and retreats for them, and come and see what net is like, and giving a new just perspective on life for that. And as well, we do a lot of music ministry, which is actually wonderful. I personally love music ministry, and it was things like Praise and Pints, which we started up in the parish, which we had a good turnout actually. Is it?
What does that mean?
Praise and Pints, good question. It's where people come for adoration, and they get to experience more of a charismatic prayer, which is just praying to God through song and through our limbs, because we want to give God all of us, you know. But it's not that you have to do that, but it's an invitation to really praise him in the Eucharist. And then after that, once it's over for the community aspect, we all go to the local pub just for chats and the crack. And honestly,
Fantastic.
It's great.
Sounds an amazing parish.
Yeah.
Grace, tell us about what are you doing in Canada with NET?
So basically I'm on a traveling team, which means that we'll stay in each place for maybe like 1 or 2 nights maximum, and we'll stay with host homes, which are families in the area that like will take us in, give us a bed to sleep in, and meals to eat while we're there, and we'll put on a retreat in like the school or the parish where we're staying. And it depends, like age group varies, numbers varies, like sometimes we'll have 120, sometimes we'll only have 20, and sometimes it'll be for like 16, 17 year olds, sometimes it'll be for 10 to 11 year olds. And yeah, we just like we'll run a retreat for them, so it's like a day long thing where we just have a lot of games, a lot of just talking time, so just where we get to know them, and then a time of prayer at the end where we invite them into a relationship with God.
Cool. Wow.
And is there anything you want to share, say a young person has shared with you without giving away any name?
Yeah, there's honestly, there's been so many experiences this year that after seeing, I'm just like, how could you not believe in God after that? Like, actually, how could you not believe in God? Like, for example, like there was one retreat I was at, I think it was in Winnipeg, and I was like leading a small group, and this boy was just like had no interest in God. Oh, not that he had no interest in God, he had an interest in God, but more so that he wanted to prove that God was not real. And he was just being like, kind of like had all these questions for me, like, well, if God is so good, then why did he create evil? And I was like, did the whole like darkness and light, like darkness is not created by light, it's the absence of light. And then at the end of the retreat, I like always in the final small group, I always do like, do you feel like you learned anything from the retreat? And that same boy was like, I learned that no matter how far you've gone from God, no matter what you've done, he will always love you, and he's always calling your name. Like,
wow,
just crazy.
Gosh,
yeah,
incredible.
That's beautiful.
Right, we're away home now.
Okay. and that's pretty typical, especially of the road team, where kids who are opposed to the faith or want to prove something, that they know more than you guys, and it's not a knowledge thing.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who actually fall the hardest, and
oh my gosh,
come to the realization that God is real. And
yeah,
like in a sense, isn't it better that they're actually asking the questions?
100%.
Like it's when there's total apathy and you're not even asking the questions. I think that's harder to reach.
The small groups that are like rowdy and like want to disagree with you are so much better than the small groups that just don't talk to you.
What's a small group? Just so people
a small group is a time where we meet during the retreat in like smaller groups of youth where we just discuss what we've heard. So after each talk we'll have a small group, just so that they can share more openly and like not be sharing in front of the whole group, and like see where their peers are at.
How does it work? Smaller group.
oh my gosh, so well.
Yeah.
So well.
It's funny, you know, the whole notion of small groups has come up so many times in the last couple of months in different settings. Like here in the local area in Balbafay, there's been like an offshoot of more small groups growing. Like I've been in a small group for years, and there's men's small group started, another women's small group, and then there's like our married kids age groups. They're in small groups, women's group, men's group. And in the course that I'm studying at the moment, it's on pastoral care. That is one of the things that has come up as being like the last class I took was on marriage and evangelization in the family. And one of the biggest outreach solutions or glory stories is small groups. In a community where small groups are active, promoted and thriving.
I think because having a small group means that you have to ask the questions and you have to answer the questions, because it's so easy to avoid the hard ones. Whereas like in that setting, you're forced to answer it and you're forced to see where other people are at, and it's so good for you. Yeah.
There's a dynamic that happens in a small group that doesn't happen ordinarily.
Oh,
Maria, do you have small groups in your
before-
parish?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to ask then, from like, if you're people who are going into schools and, you know, creating small group dynamics, then what about for you personally? Do you have small groups on your team? Like, do you have, like, is your team an actual small group?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm on a team of 8 people. It's 4 guys and 4 girls. And so like the team itself is almost like a small group, all 8 of us. But then we also split off into men's and women's times, where we just like once a week, we just have time to check in with each other and just like see where we're at and ask those questions.
Great.
Yeah, we're the same as well, yeah. But what I particularly love is night prayer, which is just before we go to bed. Is in your sisterhood or your brotherhood, you get together and you take turns leading it. So it's really beautiful to see different ways of prayer, and you just share. We typically do in our sisterhood is a rose and a thorn, and just something that you loved in your day, and then something that was challenging or upset you or whatever, and it allows you to be vulnerable, but also to remember the good things in your day, and which is really important. Yeah.
So tell us about your upbringing. Like, was your father really mean?
So bad.
and like honestly, tell us about, you know, you grew up in a family where, you know, typically you went to school. Typically the Foys were always, you know, elected as the Holy Joe of the Year. You know, so how did you handle the bit of ribbon that happened potentially, or did that happen? Was that difficult, being a person of faith in a Catholic school, but that was pretty much secular?
Yeah.
I think we handled it quite differently.
Yeah.
I was quite insecure about it. And so I almost like was like, oh yeah, like that's my family, but it's like
I'm a complete atheist.
No, I never went that far, but I would just be like, yeah, like it's my family. Do you know, like it's not me. But I think that you had a much better attitude about it.
I don't know if I was super, like, it's something that has taken me a while to like, okay, this is something I should be proud of, you know? And it's so easy to like, because if you go into like school and you like say, yeah, oh my God, like I go to mass or whatever, then people are going to think, okay, that's the attitude that you're supposed to have towards this thing, if you know what I mean. Like,
no.
Yeah, it's almost like an invitation for them to make fun of you.
Exactly.
If
you
like
say
it's
that you
something to
go
be
to
proud
mass.
of.
No.
Oh, yeah,
I
I know
was
what you mean,
hesitant about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you act with like, okay, this is actually something I'm proud of, and it's something that I care about, and it's not something to be ashamed of, then they're more likely to take you seriously and not judge you for that. And I found that like with my friends, like obviously in primary school, I wasn't super proud of it, but I became more comfortable with it in secondary school. And I was actually able to have brilliant chats with my friends that are mostly not practicing or atheists or whatever. But it's beautiful. Like if you go in sometimes just with like, yeah, I own this, and like I'm open to chat about it. It actually makes other people, I think, feel like.
I would actually go as far as say, I don't know about Canada, I haven't lived there, but here we're reluctant to have this is the whole point of this podcast, to encourage people to have conversations around the dinner table about God. Here in the culture in Ireland, we're reluctant to have those conversations. You know, as my mother says, two things you don't talk about are religion and politics.
Yeah.
You know, we're at least talking about religion and having that conversation and making it okay to actually have that conversation and trying to explain, converse about some of the tricky things that the Catholic Church teaches that we believe that whenever they're taken out of context appear to be really hurtful and mean and whatever, whereas in actual fact they're really compassionate and beautiful and loving.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, so Maria, what you're saying is you owned it.
Yeah. And yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say what you were saying there. I think that's the biggest problem that I see on retreats, not with kids like hearing what the Catholic Church teaches and not liking it. It's that they hear things that are wrong, and then they have this wrong view of the Catholic Church that needs to be changed, because people don't want to have those hard conversations and people don't want to teach those hard things, and then they're left with the wrong impression.
Yeah. And it's like what our brother-in-law was talking about. He was telling me a story about someone who was like arguing about all these different teachings of the church, and he's like, yeah, all these different things, and he's like, unless you start with the relationship with Jesus, because that's what it's all, it doesn't make sense without that. Like, come back to me when you've got to know him, and then we'll talk about these things.
Totally agreed.
Because they don't make sense without that love and that relationship with Jesus. You
Totally.
know?
Well, they can make sense whenever the witness that we have is authentic. If we're not authentic, what we believe makes no sense. So here's the thing, we're a family. There's 4 of us out of a 9 in the family here sitting across the table. We don't pretend to be perfect. In fact, we know we're not. And I know you guys think I'm great, but I'm sorry to break the news to you that I know I'm not perfect. And, you know, Sheena would say the same thing as well. Like, we're not holding up the banner of saying the Foys are perfect, or in order to be Catholic, you have to be perfect. In order to be Catholic, you just have to believe and believe in Jesus, that he died for us. And, you know, that he wants us to be in relationship with him, whether we know it or not, or whether we want it or not. And everything else cascades from that. I'm going to have one of my 4 chocolates now.
I was just wondering, would people like to see Tony's little stash here of chocolates lined up to keep his energy going? Yeah. Post.
What would you say to that? Did you forget what I just said?
So sorry. I was thinking of chocolates.
What I'm saying is,
we don't pretend to be perfect.
we do. In fact, we're the first people to say, look, people have this notion about us as the Foys because we work in ministry, that we're holy Joes and whatever. We're a freaking gong show. All you have to do is sit around the dinner table to know, or you'd want a crash helmet for some of the conversations that we're having. Like, we're going this way, but we're willing to have it out, and we're also willing to say that we're not perfect and we got that wrong, and we're also willing to apologize. Something I learned fairly early on, and you agree with me if you don't agree with me. I'm looking to the two of you and my wife. One of the key things about being in a family is saying, I'm really sorry, I screwed up there. I got that wrong. I'm sorry I hurt you.
Yeah. I do remember one thing. I think...
Is this going to be embarrassing for me?
No. I don't know if there was a certain point that you like made a conscious decision to do that more, but I must have been like 6 or 7. And I remember you like told me to close the hall door, and I didn't do it like twice. And then you told me to do it again, and then I did it. But then you're like, you didn't close the hall door. And I was like, I did. And then you saw that I did, and you're like, I'm really sorry. Can you please forgive me? I remember just being like, what?
that actually coincides with my time joining Net.
100%.
Wow.
And the thing is, I still remember it. Like, it obviously, like, as much as at the time I was like, what? Like, that's so weird. I still remember it. And it's like, I think of it when I need to apologize in situations that I don't want to apologize, but I know I'm wrong. It's just like stubbornness that I don't want to, that makes me not want to apologize. I think of that situation. Like,
I think we're getting better though at not blowing up in front of each other sometimes. Yeah, but like trying to, you know, like, I mean, your natural reaction is to blow up, but I think we're getting better at like saying, can we go and talk in another room? You know, and you know, when someone said, can we go and talk in another room? And I go, here we go.
Yeah, but
at least you're not embarrassing somebody in front of everybody.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Like the embarrassment of being like, even if you're wrong, you almost don't want to admit that you're wrong in front of everybody.
Yeah.
It's a bit more merciful on someone.
Praise in public and, you know, admonish in private, or have a difficult conversation in private. And it's something we all need to be reminded about. You know, it's important that we have those conversations that are difficult, not in front of everybody, but, you know, and like we have Emily, Joe's wife, you know, she comes from a culture whereby they're so gentle and so beautiful. Like we're just completely out there at the dinner table, sometimes in a gulping-ish way, you know, like we're disagreeing with each other, and it comes across sometimes, if you're not used to it, as being really aggressive. Whereas, and I think we can learn from Emily, but I you know, there's a balance between the two, you know, and yeah,
because you have to, like, you can't bottle stuff up either. You still have to talk about stuff, but there's definitely like a way to do it that
we need
I'm
to go
learning.
in. We all need to go in that. Yeah.
So when you decided to do NET, what were the factors that influenced your decision? Because I know that some of your older siblings did NET, but sometimes that can feel like too much pressure. And I know that we definitely adopted the approach that we never asked you to do it, and we never, we didn't even encourage you to do it. We just encouraged you to discern what it is that you wanted to do. But what are some of the influences?
All of your older siblings did NET, by the way. Just not to correct you, Sheena, but
some?
You said some.
They all did.
All of them. Yeah.
All.
Would you like to go first, or will I?
You can go first.
For me, I always liked the idea of doing NET because it has helped me in my faith journey. It's really the basis of why I have faith, because I saw all these people who loved Jesus and were great fun and had the biggest smiles on their face and were laughing and giggling all over the place. And I was like, wow, like faith can be cool, you know, and faith can be joyful. And because of that, like, it does like make an impact on like, okay, you know, I want to actually have this thing and I want to have my own faith. And because of that, I kind of always was like, definitely NET's on the cards. But I was like, never NET Ireland, to be honest. I was just like, I want to go travel the world. I want to do things, whatever. But I realized when watching Father Columba's discernment videos that I was like thinking of like the reasons why I wanted to go away, do other things. Like I was considering doing maybe Craig Lodge or something, because I still wanted that formation before I went to college or whatever was next. But I realized the reason why I wanted to leave was because I was too afraid of telling people that this is actually what I wanted to do, because it sounded cooler that I was going for this holiday year in Canada or America, which isn't a bad thing at all. Totally. It isn't a bad thing, but I was like, I was escaping from the real reason why I was wanting to do NET, you know, which is to grow in relationship with Christ in good, wholesome community. And it was whenever I was in the NET office, I was like, no, not in Ireland. I was like, well, I don't know. One of the staff members was like, Maria, you should go and see all the people who, because in the NET office, they have photos of all the new recruits for NET for the next year. And there was a bunch up already. And he showed me all the faces. And there was like a feeling of like fire in my heart. I've never felt anything like it before. It was like such joy and such like a peaceful joy that I was like, these are the people I'm going to be journeying with for the next year. I don't know if I've told you guys this before.
No, you didn't.
And I was just like,
wow.
I was in 5th year. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I walked to Telia's office, one of the people who work for NET, and I was like, I'm gonna apply right now, like this second. But she wasn't there. So I was like, that's fine. Dad's gonna come pick me up because I was on my way back from school. And so then I went. I was about to walk out the door when my nose started bleeding. So I had to go get a tissue. And when I go get a tissue and I'm about to head out, there's Telia. So I asked her and I started crying. I was like, can I apply? And she started crying too, which was pretty cool. And that's the moment I was like, this is what I'm meant to do.
And can I just say the fact that you actually applied to do net in Ireland, I thought we must be doing something right. You know, and that's not taking anything away from you, Grace. Yeah. We must be doing something right whenever one of our kids decided to do net in Ireland. Like Jerma did net in Ireland, Joe did net in Ireland as well. But I think as you guys get older, or we get older, and you're coming to the age where you could do net, it just means more. You know, it means so more, and not again taking anything away from Grace's experience of net in Canada. I purposely didn't want this to be about net, but this is what you're doing, so let it be. Yeah, you know, let it be what it is.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful for both of you not swing. Like people probably think that we were forced to do net because we all did it, but like yous were so like I remember telling yous were like, oh, okay. But really, I knew that yous were like, oh my gosh. But like yous were so like level-headed about it, which it was like, this is my decision. This is me and God's decision, you know? And yous were so, even before, like, it was, sorry. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for that. I wasn't swayed by that. Any other pressures?
Thank you.
Grace, what about your decision to do net?
I need to think about this.
I wanted to have fun.
Boys. No. Don't put that in, please.
No, it's in. Like, we're not editing that out. But anyway, go on. That's okay. Like, if that's... God uses everything. He uses everything.
Yeah, 100%. I think before I applied to do net, I wanted to do it because it looked really cool. Like, we had grown up going to net training as a family, and just like, anybody older than you think is cool, but then these people who just like loved God but were also really cool, I like just wanted to be like them, so that's why I wanted to do it for a long time. And then I kind of like fell away from my faith a bit, and then
is that for like a theatrical pause?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Okay, go on. Thanks, Sheena.
Are we able to pause for 2 seconds? You have a bit of stuff on your teeth. Can you look?
No, we're not. We just keep it in. It's okay.
No, it's
okay, go on ahead.
Yeah. I need to think about this. No. I had a summer. It was like the summer after COVID that I was going to be starting back at school again. And so I had stopped really hanging out with my school friends and was only hanging out with my like Catholic friends and with a lot of like net staff. And I just remember thinking like, why wouldn't I want to like do something that I have this much community in? Like, because I feel so close to God just by who I'm hanging out with. Like, why wouldn't I want to do this for a year? And then, I was like really like seriously thinking about doing net, but also wanted to go to school, but I had no idea what I wanted to go to school for. So I remember I was at a retreat, and I was during like a time of adoration. Do I need to explain what adoration is?
Yeah, what is adoration?
Adoration is a time of prayer where Jesus is exposed in the Eucharist, whereby which we believe that he is fully there and fully present. And one of the leaders at the retreat came and asked if they could pray with me. And while she was praying with me, she asked if like I wanted before this, before at this retreat, I was like praying in the time of adoration, and I said to God, I was like praying about going to Net Canada because my brother Joe had just like done Net Canada, and I thought that was really cool. But I like part of me did want to do Net Ireland because I was like, I could be close to my friends, I could be close to my family, like this would be great. And I said to God, like, if you want me to do Net Canada, show me a white rose. Like, show me a white rose. And, like, I think about this, I did not see those roses, but, like, I looked to my side and there was, like, a bouquet of white roses just like randomly in the chapel. And it's not a bougie chapel. Like they don't have flowers in there usually, but it was just like a vase of white roses. But I was like, surely that's not, like, that can't be right. That's too soon. And then one of the youth leaders at the retreat came up and asked if they could pray with me. And she just asked, like, what would you like prayers for? And I didn't mention anything about NET, didn't mention anything about Canada, didn't say anything. I was just like, I'm not really sure what I should do next year. Just prayers for help with that. And we were praying, and then she just like turns to me and she says, like, this is like really weird. This doesn't happen often, and it might mean nothing. It probably will mean nothing. Like, that's totally okay. But I keep getting the word Canada over and over. Like, does that mean anything to you? It's like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then I wanted to do Net Canada. It took me like another 2 weeks to like actually apply, because I was talking to someone who works with Net Ireland, and they asked me what I wanted to do next year, and I said, oh, I want to do Net Canada, and they were like, have you applied? It's like, no. And they're like, why not? So they helped me apply.
I hope you hear that, Net Canada. We actually do encourage people to do that in other countries.
Yeah. So I applied like in November, which is super early. Or I applied in October. Did I? I don't know.
Yeah, it's early on in the year anyway.
Super early. Was one of the first missionaries to be accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
And then
Getting there
was weird. I like, while I made that decision, I was in such consolation. Like I felt so close to God. And then like through school and stress of exams and just getting caught up in just like life, I like fell away from God. And then I was like, what am I doing? Like, oh my gosh, like I should just go to school. Like, even though I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to tell everyone that like, oh, I just don't want to do that anymore. So I was like, if I just don't apply for my visa, then I just can't go. And then that's perfect. So I just didn't do anything. Didn't like do anything to get ready. And it was like maybe 3 weeks before I needed to go. And I think you, Mum, were like, have you applied for your visa? Like, we need to do this. So you got like me started. And like, so to get from Ireland to Canada, you have to, to get from Ireland to Canada, you have to get a medical exam to check for tuberculosis. And to like the waiting list for that medical exam from the time that you apply is about 6 months. And I applied for like 3 weeks before I needed it.
And it's a hard 6 months as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, so like I was on calls with Net Canada, and they were like, look, like, I don't think you're going to be able to come, like, if you don't have this medical exam. Like, it's just like, you're not going to get into the country. And I was like, oh, jeez. Like, oh no. If this is what the Lord wants. But it was not what the Lord wanted, because like a week, was it 2 weeks or a week before?
A week.
It was a week before my flight to Canada.
Which had been booked.
And
paid for.
Yeah. I was, you came into my room, and it was like after a night out, and my friend was staying over, and you came into my room and you were just like, Grace, like, we need to go to Dublin. Like, you just got the appointment. Like, we have to go. It's like, what? Are you serious? Like, so we went to Dublin, got the appointment, which, like, I actually do believe that was a miracle. Like, that's crazy that happened.
There may have been a few phone calls made.
Oh, 100%. But even like phone calls made or not, like, and it was just like
2 doctors in Ireland, 2 places in Ireland that can do the medical exam for tuberculosis for Canada, the Canadian application.
Yeah.
And Sheena made a phone call to her friend who's a doctor, and she said, look, I think I might know one of the guys who actually does the exam. She recognized the name. She phoned him up. Do you want to take it from here?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's
it.
She phoned him up and got the...
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
exam.
Crazy that happened. And it was just real confirmation that, like, this is where God wants me to be. This is where I'm called to be. This is where I need to be. And even that year, like, it was so good. I feel like I had a real conversion of more like the head. I was like, this is like the way to live your life. Like the Catholic way is the way to live your life. And like it was so good for community, so good for that. But the year of net that I'm on right now has been so good for like realizing the importance of mission, like that it's actually people's lives that you're changing. And more so it's been a conversion of the heart for me, I think. Yeah.
I think it's very important what you just said about, you know, like you made a decision in consolation. You made a decision that you felt God was calling you to do net, and then you did not comply with all the things that you had to do, and then you were talking yourself into, oh, maybe God doesn't want me to do this anymore. And I think that's a lot of people get stuck there and think that they're not supposed to cooperate. Like we are supposed to cooperate with God's plan. Like he doesn't just want us to sit there and do nothing. You know, we actually have to apply for things. We have to open the doors. And if he keeps the door open, then that's part of his plan. But we have to actually initiate as well. Like he's always the first to initiate conversion within us, but we have to walk through that door
to respond, not react to the invitation. And it's just an invitation. Like at the end of the day, we can reject it as well.
And sometimes, you know, like we don't know what's best for us. You know, sometimes we do need a little push. And I remember that time. I remember sitting in the conservatory, and you just did not want to go at all. And I think it was Taylor was here that day, and she was just really instrumental in just saying, come on, Grace, you know, wasn't it?
I think it was more like...
Hang on a second. Mom, we're doing a podcast! My mother has just walked into the door. If you just open the door, Mike.
Hello. Hi,
hello.
Can I just run out and give Granny a hug?
No.
Before I go?
Yeah.
Just in case, just because I'm leaving tomorrow morning, so I just want to give you a hug. Yeah, that's why I want to.
No, carry on. Please.
Yeah,
I want to. So.
We'll chat to you later.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
Bye, Granny.
Bye.
Something to look forward to watching, Anne.
Yeah.
Say good things now.
Yeah.
We're talking about our Granny Ann.
God bless. And good luck with that.
Thanks, Granny.
See you
later. Thanks for calling up.
On the subject of Granny Ann, my mother, she's amazing, and you know, she's a very faithful woman. I don't want to give away her age, but she's quite an inspiration, and she's still working every day. Very encouraging. I just want to shout out thank you to her for her love and support. And also I left the family business that they had started, and you know, it can't have been easy for herself and my dad, and I'm grateful to them for the encouragement and support that they gave to me.
She just popped in there.
Yeah, so we'll keep that bit in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not so much, Taylor was obviously such a great help. And I think she gave me a lot of just like, empathy during the time. She was just like, this is actually really hard and that's so fair. And I really needed that. But I think the moment where I was just like, okay, I guess I need to stop fighting this, was I was talking to Rory, my sister's husband, and my sister Anna. But it was Rory that said, like, look, you go, and if you don't like it, you come back. Like, you're actually not trapped anywhere. You have free will, and you don't owe anybody anything. But I think you owe it to yourself to at least try it, because when you wanted to do this, you were really excited about it. So just try it, and if you don't like it, come back. And after like 2 days of being there, I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I think I called you up and I was like, sorry. Yeah.
What parenting advice would you give? I know you're not parents yourselves, but in terms of coming up with Sheena and Tony and, you know, whatever. Stop it, Maria.
I'm joking.
Not funny. Do put it in, but not funny. If anybody didn't catch that, you didn't catch it. I'm sorry, we're not going to repeat that for you. But just rewind the tape and see what Maria did. Anyway, like what parenting advice would you give? You're not parents yourselves. what parenting advice would you give in terms of your experience of growing up in a house where there was faith and we made mistakes
and some rules
and had some rules
that might have been a bit different than your peers.
I think the biggest rule that I am the most grateful for is we didn't have technology until we were 16. And at that, it was like pretty restricted. And at the time, I thought I was just like, this is cruel. Like, you don't get it. Like, times are changed. But actually, you did get it a lot better than I did. And you knew what it was like for a kid to have a phone. And I'm so, so, so grateful for it now that, like, we just did not have access to the internet as kids. When you're in that curious stage, when you're trying to, like, find out so much about life, and you could so easily get, like, all this information from the wrong resources and fall into some pretty scary traps. But, like, the opportunity for that just wasn't there. And that must have been really hard for you guys. But I'm so, so grateful for it.
Do you remember, though, like, whenever you guys turned 12 or made your confirmation, you got a little brick phone,
Yes.
like a text phone, no internet access?
Yeah.
Do you remember when you got yours?
I don't think I think
You don't?
What did I do?
You handed it back?
Yeah, I didn't want it. I was too embarrassed.
Yeah. Was it embarrassment?
You're
I remember
right.
this.
Yes.
I remember
You're
this.
right. Yeah, because I think I had it for like a week, didn't I?
Yeah.
And just like, it stressed me out
The pressure.
so much of just like the thought of having to respond to people and like always like being accessible. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I
you
didn't
handed
like
it
it.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and some of the sentiments were not always savory.
yeah, I think I struggled a lot with friendships growing up, and home was a bit of a safe space from that. So then like being accessible at home just like kind of took that away. So I gave you the phone, and I remember like being in your room once and hearing texts coming in on the phone, just be like, I have to go, I can't hear these texts coming in. Like that stressed me out too much.
Grace, I have to commend your security in yourself that you're able to talk vulnerably about, I had struggled with friendships growing up.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a thing that most people struggle with. Like
We all do.
we all
Not just
do.
growing up, it's
Yeah.
a life thing,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think that it's healthy to like have certain friendships for certain seasons. Some people you're meant to be friends with your whole life. Some people you're just not. And the sooner you recognize that, the better.
Maria, 18-year-old Maria, hopefully your kids will see this someday and
Yeah.
they'll say, Mom, you said this, or, you know,
Yeah.
and whatever God is calling you to in your life.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to any parent who's, you know, maybe wants to bring their kids up in the faith and, you know, is listening to this, looking for
Yeah.
some help in that regard?
I am so grateful that you guys made us go to things, you know, that like maybe half the time I didn't even want to, but like you made us to go to like retreats, like a time away with God where other young people were there, and like youth group like in Letterkenny and things like that. Like that actually fellowship is so important, and I don't know if I would be here today if I hadn't made the friends that I had made from those things, because like that actually made it really down to earth, and like, oh, these people are actually my age and searching for God, and like, yeah, I just encourage people to, there's so much in Ireland for teenagers and children
In the faith?
Yeah.
Like what?
Like
Name a few.
retreats. Net Ireland has a lovely retreat called Surf, Sun and Sun, which is a weekend retreat, if I'm correct, where you just have the crack with friends. I've gone to many in my youth.
Surfing retreat.
Surfing retreat, and then you have a time of prayer, but also you do fun stuff, and then you get to go surfing. And then there's also retreats called Veritas, which is a summer Camp Veritas, which is a summer sports and faith camp, and it's brilliant. It's in America as well, but they have one in Ireland, and you were at it as well, Grace. Did you like it?
Oh, it's so good. Those like, and Youth 2000 as well.
Yeah.
That's like a huge one. That's
Massive.
Like it spans a huge age group, which is so good. I think like being in school and not quite feeling like you fit in because we're like the holy family going to those things, you're just like, oh, these are my people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not weird to be Catholic. It's actually really cool at these things to be super in your faith. That is like, I actually think everybody needs it. You actually just, you can't. No one's an island. No one's meant to be an island. So like going to youth group was so good for us. And having like friends that were in their faith who had the same goals in life, who also wanted to get to heaven and wanted to have a relationship with Jesus, you know.
And you're both back for Christmas. You both reached out to your friends. Did you categorize your friendships into faith friends only, or did you have no chats with your
no way.
Both of you had, you know, it's not like you're somehow socially disabled and you can only talk to people of faith.
100%. I like some of my friends, they're not in their faith. We don't have that in common, and sometimes that's hard. But I know that like if I needed them, if I just called them, they would actually just show up. Like they're good friends.
Yeah.
Like, and there's something about like whether or not you share a faith, there's something about being friends with someone that has known you for a long time and like has seen you through phases. It's like, it's a big thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, even like some of my friends who wouldn't be in their faith, I could tell them sometimes even more about my faith and about how I'm struggling and whatever, because they get it, because they know me, like what you're saying. And you don't know what the impact of that is. Like even I think sometimes like in like friendships and Catholic circles, it's like sometimes from people my age, it's like not really showing that even though you're Catholic, you still struggle. And because I struggle so much with a lot of things, and like, being able to talk to people about like, I actually find this really hard. And because it's not like once you become Catholic or once you're Catholic, you're perfect, because you're not. And I don't know if I'm going on a tangent here, but
totally.
Yeah, and let me ask you what you mean by Catholic, because there's lots of kids who go to Mass on Sunday who are great kids and are really, really good. But I think you mean something different, and I don't want it to be misinterpreted in a way that you somehow are coming across as being judgy of people who are faithful to the Mass, faithful to the sacraments, but somehow haven't experienced what you have experienced to make you use the term Catholic. What do you mean by that? Like what do you mean by that?
From people who actually just want to know God and want to be closer to God and are not just like like going to Mass out of a sense of tradition and out of like, this is the way it's always been done, but like want to know God, know that Jesus died on the cross for them. Like, I feel like there's a big difference between knowing it here and knowing it here, you know? Yeah.
It'd be nice if people even knew it there, you know, and that's the reality of young people, not just young people, people of all ages who are faithful to the sacraments in Ireland, who maybe don't have a full understanding, or even we stopped getting catechesis in national school, so our faith ends there, you know, or our formation ends there rather. Maria, what would you say to that? Is Grace's answer to that question complete, or would you add anything to it?
I think so. I think it is pretty complete. I completely forgot what
you had something really good to say, did you?
I feel like I forget what I was gonna say.
Just what it means to be Catholic.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's the relationship that is like, and that's taken me a while to like. It's like sometimes I'm like more on like the head part and more like on the heart, and then it switches in between. But it's like when the two are together, it's like, Can
I ask you a question, Grace? What do you mean by relationship with God? Like, what does that even mean?
Same as a relationship with you and I, or like Maria and I, like if
or your mommy and I.
Yeah. Gross.
No, I don't mean. Yeah, that's it.
If I come over, no,
that's a marriage relationship.
Okay, I can't remember this anymore. If I come over to like, say, if I came home and I just like went to my room, didn't talk to you the entire time, like literally just acted as if you didn't exist, but was like, I'm home, so you know, like we have a great relationship. That's not true. It's like actually like loving you, doing things that are good for our relationship. Like when I come home, I'll sit and I'll talk with you and I'll tell you about my life, and I'll like ask for your advice because you're my parents, you know? Like, it's the exact same as a relationship with God. Like, there's actually things that you need to do, you know,
in order to
have a relationship with someone. Yeah.
So in terms of you're saying in doing, does that mean that there's a transaction here in terms of the doing?
No, same as it's like, it's not a transaction between you and I. Like, it's like, I would say that it's almost like similar to a father-daughter relationship. Like, it's not transactional at all, but like, you're my dad and I love you, so I want to do these things. I want to tell you about my life. I want to know your advice. Do you know?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I just wanted to tease that because it's an important one for somebody who hasn't had an encounter with Jesus, or, you know, doesn't know what we're talking about. It doesn't mean to say that we're great and you're not. It means that there's something more in our faith that is available that actually makes it all come alive, and without it our faith makes sense. What doesn't make sense, it's a drudge. In fact, it's just, we're just doing the thing as an insurance policy that we actually get to heaven. If we go to mass on a Sunday, we get to go to heaven, and it's great that people are being faithful to the sacraments without having experienced what you guys have experienced. I think that's incredibly commendable, but there's so much more, and we just have to ask God, will you be a bigger part of my life? I know you've been knocking on my door, I haven't been listening. Please, I'm going to open it from my end. Would you please come into my life and give you my heart and let you be the center of my life? And I know I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess, in fact. But let's start this journey together. Please show me you're real. Please show me you love me. Watch what happens.
I think it's so easy to forget that God actually wants it with everyone, and he wants it with you specifically. Not like me as a member of the Foy family or me as a member of Net Canada. It's like with me specifically without any of those labels, and for you specifically without any of those labels. Like, you at your like barest point, completely stripped down, he wants that relationship with you.
I think though sometimes it's hard to encounter God in your daily life without stepping out of it. And I think if people have the chance to take any time out, any sort of retreat, something, get away for a weekend, and if you can't do that, even just a couple of hours in front of the Blessed Sacrament, where you it's a change, it's different to your normal life, where you actually have time to hear God's voice, time to slow down, because unless you actually make a decision to do that, it's going to be very hard to encounter God because we're too busy.
Yeah, and I think that's like being called, like, we are called as Catholics to go to mass every Sunday and like encounter Jesus in the Eucharist, because the Eucharist, like, it's a source and summit of our faith. I think like the same with like retreats and stuff like that. Not like you have to do this, but like you should. Like, it's good for you. You should always be trying to grow in your faith.
So the way my brain thinks, it's logical, or at least I think it's logical. It's probably not logical, but anyway, I'm always asking the question, how does intergenerational faith happen? And it tends to happen with people who have convicted faith, who have somehow had an experience of God that they want to hand on to their kids, that somehow their kids pick that up from them in a way that is communicated. There's a profundity to it that affects the kids in a way that if it's cultural Catholicism, it does not. Frank Duff could see that in the 1950s, and he talked about it in the 1950s. Here we are. He predicted we would be where we are in the church in Ireland because we have this two-tier Catholicism, those who are convicted and those who are cultural, and we need to combine the two to conviction and cultural. Do you know?
It's like, I wonder, so you're saying like you guys, like, okay, I'm trying to, I think like, is that like realistically, I don't know if I'm actually understanding what you're saying, but is it enough for just like parental giving down the faith, or do you need more than that? I feel like you need more than that.
You need more than that. And if parents
but it's a great start.
It's a great start, 100%, and I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for it.
So in terms of like, I'm not saying it to say, you you got this gift and that's great, but in terms of any parents who are listening, it's our responsibility. You know, we are the bridge between Jesus and our kids. Like, and we have to allow our kids to be able to walk on that journey. And if we don't show them the way, it's a lot harder. It's not impossible.
No.
But it's harder.
It avoids a lot of hurt. I think.
Yeah.
Before we ask the final question, your mommy's nudging me under the table. We need to go do food for the netters. Before we ask the final question, I just want to say, to you two, I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. Not because you're missionaries, because you're my daughters, and you're beautiful, and you're just absolutely wonderful. Like really, really incredible women who I'm so proud of. And, for your identity is not in the fact that you're missionaries. Your identity is, God loves you. You're his daughters. You're amazing people because of who you are, because of him.
Thanks.
Amazing people. And I'm so proud of the both of you. And I don't know if Sheena, if I'm gushing too much or whatever.
No, I'm sitting here thinking, when did this happen? Like when did our girls grow up and be able to articulate their faith the way you have done there now? Yeah. If we keep going, we'll all be crying. So the last question we ask on every podcast is there something you've read or watched or, something that's touched you in your prayer time that is impacting you this week, or this season in your life?
Honestly, the rosary.
What?
Yeah. Just
And we have to say the rosary.
I know. Because a bit of context, growing up, we said the rosary every single night. And it was like, either you say the rosary or you go to bed. And it was just like, I did not appreciate it at the time, but I'm grateful for it now. But I've been trying to say the rosary on my own. And I was saying it the other day. And I really felt like the Holy Family, like, just like I was on the bus, on this like bus from Belfast to Ballybuffet or to Strabane. And it's like the sun like randomly like started streaming through the window, and I was like on, I think I can't remember what mystery I was on, but it was just like I felt the Holy Family just like they're like, we're with you, like no matter what, same as your family's with you, like no matter what decision you make, no matter what choice you make, like we're always with you. So that's something I've been like really reflecting on and thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Maria, do you want your mommy to go first or me to go first, or are you ready?
We'll do.
No, you can go.
Well, to be honest, I'm going to be real here. I have found it very hard to be consistent with prayer over my Christmas break. And yes, today was one of the first actual
mind your mic there, baby.
First actual intentional hour prayer that I have done in a while. And not that the amount of matters, it's the quality. But you know what? I just I was listening to music to the song called Most Beautiful, Dearest Father. I don't know if you guys play it. No, I'm just kidding.
Brings out the guitar.
It's just
how's the sound?
It's just like
go for it.
It's like, on Calgary you looked at me. On Calgary you looked at me with just one look. Everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. And that just like it's so easy to forget about what he did on Calvary. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Especially on mission. I don't know if you, and like in whatever you're doing, life, it's like you're giving out and like,
it's such a thing. You're like so
pouring out.
You're trying to convince people that Jesus did this for them, that you forget that he did it for you. Yeah.
And it was just like listening to these words, and like, yeah, I find music a beautiful way to pray and be led in meditation for that. And that was, for me, it was just like, wow, it's so beautiful to be reminded of that. And like, I physically felt that in the moment. I was like, oh, I was like sitting in the chair. I was like, oh, it's just beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Maria.
What about you guys?
Thanks for your little singing.
Oh, thanks.
So over Advent, I've been doing the Abiding Together Lenten or Advent study. Heather Kim wrote a book called Emmanuel something or other. Can't remember. But it's basically a journal, and each day there was reflection and questions on the reflection, and then a meditation. And I must say, I just found it really great. Got me into a lovely rhythm of consistent prayer leading up to Christmas. Made me stop and reflect. But the biggest thing, that I'm pondering on at the moment is Heather Kim talked about how in certain relationships we can have a flight or fight mentality where we fight it out and stay the course, or we have this reaction where we clam up and we shut down and we run. So we have a flight mentality. And she was saying how her natural tendency is to fly because it's self-protection. So if you've been hurt by somebody, you kind of you close up and you say, I'm not going to let that happen again, so see ya. And she just got people to reflect on, is that what Jesus did? Like when people shunned him or scorned him, did he say, right, I'm out of here? No, he didn't. And he continued to be vulnerable, and he continued to build relationship. So she kind of encouraged people to, try and do what he did, but we can't do it on our own. And the only way we can do it is if we are in constant communion with him to receive his grace. And if we're filled up, and I know I've said this before in the podcast, but if we're filled up by his gaze, we then have the capacity to go back again and love again. And yeah, we might be smacked again, but to keep being open, because it's not us, it's him in us. So that really struck me.
And I just want to make an important distinction because it's in my head and I think it's important. That doesn't mean to say that if somebody's in an abusive relationship, they keep an abusive. No. That's a very important distinction to make.
Absolutely. And not even in an abusive relationship, but if you're in a relationship where you have tried really hard and you've done all the things, then I think there's freedom to walk away. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I do think that I don't think we're meant to be doormats either.
Isn't it like the forgiveness and reconciliation, or there's another word, I don't know, but it's like you can forgive someone, but you not necessarily have to reconcile, as in try to become friends. That's not.
Yeah, you're not
Absolutely.
called. You're not called to allow that person to do the same thing again to you.
Yeah, but it
depends on the relationship.
It depends on the situation, and what I got out of this is to keep trying, though, to keep trying, and then there may come a point where you do walk away, but not at the first fall.
Yeah.
I'll share a little bit, just really briefly. I have this unusual job in that I serve by running a mission called Net Ministries, and there's an anointing that comes with that, and I feel that anointing sometimes. At some point every year, I feel that anointing, and I felt it coming back in January. Just the prayer time was just like the Lord just poured His oil over me, and it's a very real experience. And it's not a thing, it's a real thing. I feel strong in Him, not in myself. And that His anointing, His leadership anointing is on me. That's where I'm at.
That's beautiful.
So thanks be to God.
Thank you for coming all the way.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
The podcast room.
Your sitting room. Yeah. God bless you, girls. And thanks, Mike, for being on the sound desk. Appreciate it.
Fine.
And we'll pop this one out fairly soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And like and subscribe.
Yeah.